Welcome, and thanks for joining us today. You're listening to the Women's Broadcast Television Expert Spotlight Show, and I'm your host, Shea Vaughn. WBTN is the all-women's internet television station with content that's created by women and for women. And we are here today with our WBTVN expert. Let me tell you just a little bit about her. You're going to love her. Lisa Lockwood is a highly sought-after media contributor known throughout America for her insights on crime in America as well as her career in reinvention. Known as the reinvention expert, Lisa is a decorated Desert Storm veteran, detective, SWAT cop, as well as career consultant, media personality, public speaker, and collegiate educator. She is an acclaimed author of the books Undercover Angel, From Beauty Queen to SWAT Team, Reinventing You, the 10 Best Ways to Launch Your Dream Career. Help me welcome Lisa to our show today. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Shea. Thank you.
So good to see you. Oh my goodness, you look beautiful, as always.
You are my role model.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, I think that your story is so compelling. And what I'd really like to do is really start with your childhood and just take us through all the things that took place. You can take a breath in between so I can kind of comment. But just, tell us where you got to where you are today.
Okay, happy to do that. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Welfare family, 7 children, mom and dad, and sometimes we had grandma living with us. So we had a very full home. Things were tight in our house, as with most people in America. You make do. You don't know what's missing until you start comparing to other people. So there had been a lot of love in the house, but there was definitely a struggle to fit in. There was bullying in the neighborhood, the fact that they found out we were on welfare and food stamps and that sort of thing. So everybody had their way in my family learning how to cope with that. Unfortunately, in the later years, I had 3 of my sisters who became teenage mothers. 5 of the 7 of us had dropped out of high school. So my oldest sister and myself, the 5th born, we're the only 2 that graduate high school because I knew it was important. I knew there was something other than repeating that cycle of welfare, and education was the key. So when I graduated high school, my mother entered me in the Miss Illinois USA pageant without telling me. Now I
know. No, obviously she did that because she was so proud of you and you're so beautiful and she wanted something more for you.
Thank you for that. Yes, my mom was very proud. I was the child who was good in school, and she says, if anything, let me try and figure something out, hoping I'd win and get a scholarship. So I didn't take the title, but I learned a lot through that experience about building self-esteem and what it's like to compete with other girls and that sort of thing. And I decided to join the military because I desperately wanted to go to college. Military was my vehicle to get an education. So I ended up doing that right after I competed in Miss Illinois USA.
I think that is so smart. I think that, men do it all the time, but women don't think in that direction as easily. And so what a great career. Absolutely.
It taught me a lot. I already did not embrace the whole idea of victimhood. I knew there were opportunities out there. The military just hammered that in because everybody was an equal in the military. They didn't care what background you came from. You were all treated equally. You were stripped of your background. Nobody cares. That's that's your past, and everybody starts in the same playing field. So that was kind of a nice change, that there's no room for being a victim when you're out there defending your country. Everybody becomes a family member, your comrades, fellow patriots.
I am so happy to hear you say that because you all have the same, desire to, to protect America and the people. And that's what brings you all together.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's a brotherhood. Or
love it.
In my case, it's a new family.
Exactly.
And I'm still in touch with them after all these years. That's when I was 19 years old. So it just goes to show you that people that are of high values and integrity, you tend to keep a relationship going because that's what you want to attract in your life ultimately.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think that those kinds of things that that you have to go through together for the same purpose, the same values, the same vision, all of those things, just, they cement a relationship in your life that is forever. And it's not somebody you have to talk to every day or have to see after you get out and you're doing other things. But it's always there. It's just within you.
It is.
Yeah.
Like a sense of community.
It's
years
absolutely.
later, 20, 25 years later, I'm inviting him to my wedding.
Yeah.
So this goes to show you, but it taught me quite a bit. And being an only female in that arena in a male-dominated career field also taught me a lot of things: how to cope, how to get along with men a little bit better, how to be accepted. So here I was in that situation. As much as we would like to think everything is equal across the board at all times, even though it was equal pay, because we talk about women not having equal pay as men do.
Yes, that's a big thing right there.
Yeah, in the business sector, we haven't reached that height. However, the military, everybody has a pay grade and promotions are at the same period and you go up for it. And it's a real equal playing field. So I definitely loved that. Even served in Operation Desert Storm and had an experience overseas in Saudi Arabia that made me proud, just proud to defend our country and to be in a place where I was able to give back. Certainly I didn't expect that. I thought it was going to be easy street. Do 4 years, get my degree, and go home. So I didn't expect a conflict, but fortunately it was a quick conflict.
Yeah, right. And one that just gave you an opportunity to see part of the country you probably would have never had a chance to see before, and to really, to be out there. Yeah.
How women are treated in other cultures and
exactly
that they don't have. It certainly did. It was an eye opener to the freedoms we have here in the United States.
For sure.
Yes. So with that, during the time I was in the military, I was engaged early. I was engaged at 18 and still went ahead and joined the military and ended up getting married at 21. And unfortunately, it was a decision. Two things I think were happening. At that age, you're kind of looking for a father figure. Now, remember I told you there were 7 kids? There were 6 girls in my family, all vying for the attention of the man, the patriarch. So I think I fell into the arms of another man. And it's kind of that old story. You find somebody like your father. And ultimately, years later, I became a victim of domestic violence in that situation. So another thing that I had to grow and learn from, of not repeating a pattern. I didn't become a mother at 15 like my sisters had, but I ended up marrying somebody who ultimately became first emotionally abusive and then physically. And then I needed to gather the strength to leave him as well.
Lisa, how long were you actually in that relationship?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
And did all of that start early on?
He exhibited behavior that were red flags that I should have fled. Okay. So he loved to fight quickly, not with me, fight other men. So he had that testosterone in him that he would go to blows. He had jealousy. If somebody looked at me, he wanted to fight other men. And he had a temper. If anything didn't go his way, it would be simple for him to punch a wall. So seeing that violence certainly should have been red flags for me to say, run the other way, girl.
Right.
The advice I give now.
Go to flight.
Exactly. But here is a naive, young, immature woman. I thought, he loves me. I could change him. I could stop.
Oh my goodness. Why do all these women think the same way? They're going to change.
It is. It
doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. So certainly that's the advice I give to this day.
Right.
But when it got to a point where he actually did one incident where he became physical, and I decided that I was not going to call 911, that I was just going to suck it up and go to work as a 911 dispatcher. That was my job. Could you even imagine?
Yes.
I never called for help. I ended up going to work, with the injury that I had endured and hid it from the world. But then that's where the new plan came in. And then the plan was, I will become a police officer. And as soon as I graduate from the police academy, I'll be strong enough to leave him. So ultimately,
there's always something that's like, as soon as I reach this goal, as soon as I do this, this is when I'm going to do something. And we did. And that doesn't mean that you don't get to that point and you finally do it. But it's like, we're planning, you have to put that plan together and do it in a manner that you feel comfortable with, because obviously you needed that job, you needed money coming in, you needed, some security and whatever. And you want to go back home and live with mom.
You're saying all of that, which is true. Financially, I could have taken care of myself because I was a 911 dispatcher.
Okay.
The underlying fear were the threats. I'll kill the next man in your life. I'll kill your family. I'll kill myself. So here now, on top of the emotional abuse, it was, would he follow through? And I actually believed he would. because of the behavior that I had seen him terrorize our home, break furniture. I mean, a volatile, explosive temper, that when he said those words, I believed it to be true. So my plan truly was a strategy of survival. As soon as I become a police officer and I have a firearm, all bets are off.
Okay, I like it.
It happened, Shay. I'm one of those people that actually did take action. I graduated from the police academy, and soon after that, I filed for divorce. So,
and then what did he do about that? Was it? I'm sure that it was not, easy.
He did not. Then it got to a point where, maybe we should try counseling. Maybe we should try this and that. But I already knew. He had a chance at rehab. He declined all of that and realized the values were different. So fortunately, after the shock of it, he did end up being civil with me. He did end up, we had lunch after the divorce. So, over time, it just worked. Now, it's not the recommendation that I give other folks, especially any other woman, because when I did become a police officer and responded to domestic violence calls, I would say it's time for you to leave now. Somebody hits once, they're going to hit again. I'll put you in a shelter. I'll make sure your kids are taken care of, because we're not going to come here and show up and have you dead on the floor. So because it worked for me, it doesn't work for everybody. I'm fortunate that I was a survivor in that situation, but not the advice I give right now. And anybody that's listening, absolutely not. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. They'll strike again.
Exactly. Well, you had become something different, though, in that relationship by doing all the things that you had done prior to this. And you made a believer out of him. Yeah. And he knew that he wasn't going to get away with it anymore.
Yeah. I think my Glock 40 caliber was a little intimidating as well.
I would guess so. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. She's running around packed, Exactly. So then, so then you're divorced.
Yeah. So now I'm a brand new police officer. I moved out. I'm in my first home ever that I was able to buy based on my salary. It was really an exciting time. And all I had was the job. So imagine, like anybody right now that's starting an entrepreneur, any type of business, you put all your efforts, 110%, because that's your only focus. I didn't have children, didn't have a husband, and that's what I did. And because of that, I started to be recognized on the police department. I started to be called for undercover operations. I was called to go in and get certified as a firearms instructor. Later on, I was promoted as the first woman on the SWAT team after only 2 years on the job. So all that effort and doing well in those efforts, because you can effort away and not be good at it. Fortunately,
yes. Yeah. Well, I know you, and I know how focused you are and how determined you are. And I think that those are qualities that we build into.
Yes.
And once we do, we keep it. I mean, it's there for us, but it takes time. It takes, you have to go through the process of all of it. And, you have to get rid of the fear of, trying something, because basically you're out there taking care of yourself now. You're making money, you're buying, your first place, and you're living basically from paycheck to paycheck to,
sure.
To pay for all of it.
Yeah.
But you're also, the most important thing, and the thing that I think that is so rewarding to know about you, is that you really did put yourself in harm's way. Not just, going into the military and serving, our country, but even getting out of that and being a cop and being an undercover cop. Tell us about that, because there was drugs that were involved. You put your life at risk, all of those things. And there's not a lot of men that would do that, let alone a beautiful woman like you. But of course, that was your cover up too. See, no one would expect you to, to be that in undercover.
So here I was in patrol, and one day I served in patrol for 4.5 years, and I was a single person unit, meaning that I didn't have a partner in my squad. It was just me in my car, strumming up my own arrests, doing traffic stops, unless I called for a backup. But basically, it was a one-woman show. And over that period of time, I'd accumulated a bunch of arrests. I was going to say a bad word, a load of arrests. A load of arrests and making a name for myself. And not only getting the arrests, it's also getting convictions. You can get arrests all day long, but to make sure that you have a solid case to get a conviction, that's a big deal. Because what comes with that? What comes with that is a great report and possibly getting written confessions from your criminals. And I had the ability to do that. So even as a police officer, I did well. I was being recognized. And one day I was called in, can I do an undercover operation? One undercover, still staying patrol. I wasn't promoted. I went ahead and I did that. And I was undercover Hooters waitress.
That's fun.
It was. So I had to do the uniform, and I actually went into the parking lot with a bad guy who had already been pinched by the police, and he was working off the crime to introduce us to another bad guy who was going to come and sell me drugs. So we were in the car. Imagine I've got a bad guy next to me already. I've got my pistol underneath my seat, and the parking lot is filled with undercover police officers just sitting in cars, waiting for the deal to go down, for me to give the signal, and then to converge on all of us, take everybody into custody, including me, and then go ahead and go to the police station and then go from there. And it went very well, and they knew that I had the balls, so to speak, to do it, and I wasn't fearful. Then I was called upon for kind of the one-offs. We need somebody undercover for now a sex predator case, 13-year-old girls. They're going after these young girls. So I would talk on the phone to the sex predators, posing as the 13-year-old girl, in order for them to actually make the date, cross state lines, fly to visit me. And I started to do that while I was still in patrol. So I'm juggling SWAT team, patrol, and then called in for undercover work. But I'm not complaining. I loved it. That was my life until I was finally promoted full on to undercover narcotics detective. Yeah.
And so how long did you stay in there? Because now you're just, you've written, we're going to talk about your books just a little bit and get to that. And, you're really the entrepreneur that, and when you talk about, being that expert as far as reinventing yourself, you reinvented yourself over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes you, so great as far as, being a coach and helping other people, because you've walked the walk and talked the talk on all of this. And that's a tribute to you. So how long did you stay in the undercover and in the police?
So the undercover assignment was 3 years. I was on SWAT for 5 years. I was in patrol for 4.5, and some of those had paralleled with one another. And now I'm on the list to be promoted to sergeant. And I had no desire to be a sergeant. I had done so many exciting things in those other roles. And being a sergeant, I mean, I value what they do, but I knew for my life path, that wasn't it for me, because it's babysitting police officers. It's doing a lot of paperwork, running the roll calls. The excitement wasn't there anymore of me actually going out and arresting people. So I had to make a decision in my life. And that decision was do a lateral transfer as a financial crime detective or go back to patrol, because I knew I didn't want sergeant. So one would have been a demotion. One would have been an even, but financial crime wasn't exciting for me as well. So I decided to leave. I was attending a personal development seminar, Tony Robbins event, and there it was. And I had that moment of I would leave law enforcement. That year was the commitment, and figure out what I want to do next with the skills I accumulated. And those skills being the ability to interrogate, to question criminals and witnesses and victims. I just knew I loved to help and I loved to serve. So coaching was just a beautiful segue into my new life. And I knew I had to write my story to get that out there and get the message of what it was, what were the ups, the downs, the triumphs over the adversities, in order to feel as if I was branded in that arena, I was the expert in that arena, and that people would feel that I was valid to be their coach.
Absolutely. And they would do, and after 2 minutes with you, they would be honored, that to have you as their coach.
Thank you.
So let's talk about your books. What got you to the stage where I want to write a book? I want to tell my story, because it is compelling. I mean, as a woman, you've done more than most women have in areas that they would never even think to go. Right. And once again, putting yourself in harm's way to do that. But then coming out of it, and really reinventing yourself as an entrepreneur, writing books, doing coaching, helping other people, and the media personality, going on media and telling your story and helping out wherever you can. So tell me a little bit about what brought the books, what brought that to your life, and why did you want to really do that?
I never thought I would write a book, so it wasn't even part of the big master plan. While I was a police officer and I would share my stories with my family and close friends about working undercover or a SWAT call out or storming a drug house, they would say to me, you should write a book. It was one of those in passing, you should write a book. You start to hear that enough. I think to myself, why not? Because I had always journaled. I loved writing in that capacity. I mean, I graduated school. I got my bachelor's in psychology. I got my master's. I was a great writer, and I journaled. So it was like a diary. All my police career, my feelings and emotions had already been journaled. Now it was a matter of pulling the police reports, putting the actual events that were in there, and making the combination of my personal feelings now with the professional things that were happening on the job. So that was the impetus for the book.
Wow. And I love the title, Undercover Angel. And yeah, I mean, and you are an angel. So I just, want everybody to know that. And then the second book that you've just done recently, tell us a little bit about that, Reinventing You, the 10 best ways to launch your dream career.
Because we're all reinventing whether we like it or not. It's all part of maturity, evolution. We're moving, we're reinventing in our relationships, we're reinventing in careers and business, and it just goes on and on. Change is inevitable. So when I first started coaching, my former husband and I had started teaching, and I didn't talk about that. When I left law enforcement, I actually fell in love, moved to Canada, started writing my book, and became a stepmom to 3 kids. And the two of us had decided, he was an author and speaker as well, that we would do relationship seminars to get people to be able to communicate better with one another. So that was the first part of coaching. Then the life coaching had come in, and then the career coaching. So again, I reinvented and kind of moved up and segued into that because I realized that most people were unhappy in the current career and jobs that they had. And I said, well, what's preventing you from doing what you love? Well, I can't because I have to pay all the house bills, and you get stuck, and it's the vicious cycle. So I help people explore what they want to do while they're still keeping their bread and butter, so that revenue's coming in. And now let's figure out what you're meant to do and find out. Exploring hobbies. Where were they as a kid? What did they love doing? What do they love doing now? If they had all the money in the world, what would they do every single day? So I have in my book, Reinventing You, a whole bunch of activities that you can fill out and do workshops to be able to get into yourself and figure out where to go next. And of course, I also help people with that.
Well, I think that's so important because I don't think people ask themselves those questions. They're just kind of like listening to speakers talk about, just follow your dream, and yet they don't have any idea what their dream is. They do have some of the things that they like to do, but they really haven't put it down and thought out, how can I make a career out of this? Yes. What am I missing? Where do I need help? What are the things that I need to put together?
Like the little templates.
Yeah, templates.
This.
Exactly. And that's really what your book does. So, I think you're great. I love you to death. And I just think that what you really have to offer the world is really what needs to be heard, because there's so many people out there suffering in jobs that they don't want to be in. They don't know where they want to go because they haven't figured all of that out. Right. And more importantly, they don't know how to go about making that transition. And how do I keep my job long enough that I maybe, want to do this? But there's lots of help for them. And your book is definitely it. Where can they go to get your book, Lisa?
I would recommend, go to my website, lisalockwood.com. That way I can personalize it and sign it. Both of them are available on there. If they want to go through Amazon, of course it's there. Yeah. But if they go direct through me, then they get a personal note and a sign from me. And
well, who wouldn't want that? That's a great, little, personal touch to it. And
thank you.
And so, yeah. So any words of wisdom that you want to leave us with?
Yes. I believe that we're all meant to do something. We're all called to do something, and everybody says, oh, does God like have a blackboard in the sky that, Lisa Lockwood is meant to do blank? And when it all comes full circle, because in Conversations of God, I remember hearing that and thinking to myself, there isn't a blackboard in the sky, because we all have different experiences. And just because we find something you absolutely love and say, I could do this the rest of my life, 5 years down the road, you realize you want something more. So I want to give permission to everybody listening right now that yes, you can change careers, you can have more, and it's okay to shelf that last experience to move on into something else.
Yeah, give yourself permission. I love it. It's so true. We don't do that. As women specifically, we tend to want to help rather than helping ourselves.
So true.
We can actually help so much better when we do help ourselves.
Yes. So rise to the top.
Rise rise to the top. Well, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on the show today and sharing your compelling story and being with us. And I know that the audience loved it, and they know where to go to get your book and to get in touch with you. So I just want to
thank you, Shay.
Yeah, oh, you're more than welcome. And I just want to thank everybody for joining WBTVN Experts Spotlight Show today. And, you know, we are so lucky to really be able to have so many expert women that are highly successful on our show. And if you have an interest to be interviewed, go to WBTVN.tv, fill out the form, and we will contact you. So until we see you again the next time, thank you. And thank you guys. Take care.